Hockey Talk Show on a Wednesday. Let's do it at 631-438-1768. Facebook, YouTube Live, and of course on hockeytalkshow.com. If you're listening via the podcast, thanks so much. Rate and review as always. You can do that on Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, and now on Spotify. I got asked this great question: when does the podcast go up? As soon as the show is finished on Facebook and YouTube, about an hour or so after we upload the podcast, after the show is done. So that's when you guys can get a look at the podcast. It usually goes up at night, usually sometime around, I guess, 10 or 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The podcast goes up, but it's always up and available for you guys there the next morning. So we try and get it up as soon as possible, each and every day once we finish the prior show. I must say, out of my hockey picks for last night's games, I think I did pretty all right. I think I did pretty okay. I got the Toronto game wrong. I blew that one. I kind of knew that, though, going into it. I knew that was a strong possibility. I was kind of almost picking Toronto just to make all the Maple Leafs fans out there feel a little bit better about themselves, and that was clearly a mistake. That was a gigantic error on my part. Although I did actually feel good about Frederik Andersen, and I know that St. Louis is one of the great teams, and Hitchcock and everybody, but I really did think that the Maple Leafs were going to be able to get something done last night against St. Louis. But I knew I was picking a long shot there. But by the way, the Leafs only lost 2-1, and I believe that game went into overtime too, if I'm not mistaken. So it wasn't a horrifically, it wasn't that far off from being a halfway decent pick. It really, really wasn't. It wasn't all that much. It wasn't that far off from being a decent pick. On the show today, Kid Rock and Caps jerseys. That's what we're talking about on the Hockey Talk Show today. Kid Rock and Caps jerseys. See, I'm from the world of radio, so any alliteration is like exciting. There's just something built in about us radio people where alliteration is super, super great. All right, and we should be back up and running now. My apologies. Had a little snag with our Facebook feed. So if you're just joining us, sorry, my bad. I pulled an Islanders on this one. Boy, are the Islanders. I tell you what, they're killing me. They are absolutely killing me, this team. They are really just driving me to drink, and drink heavily at that. Islanders blowing a massive game last night against the Devils. They really had a situation where they could have put some space in between them and some of the other teams that are barking up in the Metro Division, and they just couldn't get it done, falling absolutely flat in a horrible game where, you had defensive mistakes, you had really bad goaltending, you had, John Tavares, the star of stars for the New York Islanders, coughing up the puck and making some really, really poor judgment decisions. And what results in the game is a big fat L for the New York Islanders. And it is just, it's heartbreaking. It's really just kind of heartbreaking to see them not really be able to complete things. Now, I've been saying this too. You can't really lose a game in the Metropolitan Division, because if you do, you can find yourself on the outside looking in. So when the Islanders beat Montreal the other night, they pushed the Rangers out of a playoff spot and put themselves in a nice little position. The Rangers beat up on the Flyers last night. Isles lose. Rangers push the Islanders out of that wild card position. So there's going to be a whole slew of this back and forth happening over the course of the next couple of weeks that I'm sure most Islanders and Ranger fans are going to, no doubt, enjoy, because after all, that's what it's all about, being able to rag on your friends and loved ones that, are in the old, got bit with the old hockey bug as well. All right, I'm sorry, just a little catching up with everything here on the streams. It looks like we're all good right now. If you're watching, make sure you give us the thumbs up on Facebook and YouTube and comment so we know that you guys are watching and where and whom you want to talk about. We're going to get to a bunch of things besides the Caps and the Kid Rocks. Of course, we'll figure all that out. Chicago, thanks for checking in. You know what I don't get? JS, the teams with terrible goaltending and their GMs were ex-goalies like Hextall and Snow. You would think they'd have an advantage in goalie drafting. They both suck. Boy, the Flyers, it's weird. You know, I look at like the Giants in football. Always a great defensive team. It doesn't make any sense. The Giants always had brilliant defensive players. All the time. Always had a great line. Always had great defensive players. Teams would come and go. Players would come and go. You know, all these guys. In and out. Nothing ever changed. Players would change. Teams would change. 10 years would pass. And the Giants would still have a killer defense. And I never understood that. Because teams historically change. But sometimes they get stuck with these stigmas that they can't really get past. And that's the case with the Philadelphia Flyers because they have never been able to get over that hump. Historically had awful goaltending. Even when they had their best goaltending, like Mason came and went, like there was little flashes there for him. The Russian guy who went crazy, I forget, it's not Bobrovsky. It'll come to me, or you guys will remind me. It's true though. Like the Flyers historically have had really, really bad goaltending. The Islanders not so much. The weird thing with the Isles, you know, Osgood was great for them, although he was so in and out so quickly. I really thought that Osgood could have stayed a little bit longer and been just as good, even though he was sort of at the tail end of his run. Halak, when they got him, was good. Up until that 3-goalie thing that happened, you know, that was a bit of an issue. But other than that, I agree with Chicago. I agree with your sentiments. You'd think the goalie GMs would be able to draft a damn goaltender. Has not been the case so far. Absolutely has not been the case so far. Eddie V, 7-1, I was right. As long as the Kid Rock doesn't sing the national anthem, his voice sounds like two cats being stapled together. How about that for a visual? Two cats being stapled together. Hockey Talk Show on a Wednesday, off to a good start here. Kid Rock and Caps. Let's talk about Kid Rock. Let's start there with my man. We're starting to get some more information on what's going down for All-Star Weekend, and Kid Rock named one of the performers during the All-Star Game. Now, here's what's weird. Unlike, you know, football with the halftime, you know, the hockey's got the two breaks in there. So it's always, I always wonder, like, where do you decide to put him? But I guess the finale of the midway points is the second period or second intermission. And it looks like the second intermission, presented by Ticketmaster, will feature Kid Rock down at the 2018 Honda NHL All-Star Game in Tampa Bay. This is coming up on Sunday, January 28th. The National Hockey League announcing before the Flyers-Rangers game that Kid Rock will be taking the stage there. The All-Star Game will begin at 3:30, so you'd have to think 4:30, 5:15, 5:20 or so if you absolutely hate hockey and you just want to watch Kid Rock. 5:15 would be a good time to turn on the old tube. Kid Rock, of course, Devil Without a Cause, his 1998 album that blasted out with Ba with the Ba, Cowboy, Picture, and all summer long. He's had a whole string of hits, sold over 26 million albums worldwide, and recently who is notoriously conservative, is like, I've seen a smidge of backlash for it. Like, it's unbelievable to me how uber sensitive we've gotten over these things, you know? I may not see eye to eye with every hockey player's political beliefs, and I may not see eye to eye with every performer's political beliefs, but I still stand, and I think maybe sometimes alone, in being able to respect their beliefs if they're different than mine, and still appreciate their talent. I'm excited about Kid Rock. I don't line up with all his political beliefs, but I'm excited about him. I did see Kid Rock years and years and years ago when I was back in College Station. We were giving away tickets, and as does happen from time to time, some of the tickets don't make it all the way to the air, and they wind up in your pocket. And so we went over to the Kid Rock show, and I'll say this, the guy puts on one hell of a show. The kid can hustle, man. The kid can hustle, no joke about it. Kid Rock put on one of the more amazing shows where he literally walked around stage at one point during the performance and played every instrument on the stage. Went over to the guitar player, kind of put his arm around and like grabbed the neck of the guitar and started playing the guitar. Went over, played the keyboard, scratched on the turntables a little bit, played bass for a second, went over and played the drums, took over and played all while the band was jamming. They never stopped playing, and he went from one musician to the other that was in his band, which is excellent. And he just picked up their instruments and started jamming like crazy. It was really, really unbelievable. It was really something to see. So I will say this. I mean, that was a long time ago, though. But we might be in for a treat with Kid Rock at the All-Star game. It's a weird thing when it comes to the National Hockey League because they just want to pull in a big act. That seems to be their goal each and every single year, that the bigger the act that they get, the better off the whole presentation is going to be. Remember, this is the Honda All-Star game and the Ticketmaster intermission and all that. This is a big congratulatory thing for the sponsors, that all the, the wonderful sponsors, the Hondas and the Enterprise Rent-A-Cars and all these things that throw a lot of money the National Hockey League's way. This is a big thank you for those guys, too. So it should be, something that they all enjoy as well. And, that's a big part of it. And pulling in an entertaining guy and getting a big name and pulling in an entertaining person is all a huge part of making this thing roll here in the National Hockey League. Now, I apologize if we're having some difficulties on the Facebook side of things. We're streaming hard and good on the YouTube side of things. So if you're normally a Facebook watcher and you want to just head on over to hockeytalkshow.com, you can get the links over for our YouTube and get a much better consistent stream. Let me know if those of you that are watching on Facebook, I see there's still a bunch of you guys over there, if it's really like unbearable. It looks like it's coming in and out, and everything looks okay on our end. So Kid Rock will be performing at the show, and by the way, the National Hockey League will be announcing some other performers as well. So they're not done with Kid Rock. They'll add some more. Maybe there'll be a first intermission performer. Maybe there'll be a special anthem performer. We'll have to wait and see as those announcements come over the next couple of weeks. Let's go to the state of Pennsylvania and check in with some of the issues that are going on right now with the Flyers and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Let's start over there with Pittsburgh. We told you that Matt Murray left the team the other day for personal family reasons, and we now found out that his father, James Murray, passed away on Tuesday. So condolences out to him from the rafters, as Eric Lindros's number will be officially retired. Some rocky ground with the Philadelphia Flyers organization when he left. But it looks like Eric Lindros has made good, It's been a couple of years since he made nice with the Flyers. It's been a little bit of time. He's made nice with the Flyers. And I'm glad to see him back in the orange and black. To me, he'll always be a Philadelphia Flyer. I don't know if Ranger fans will take exception to that. I know he played a good amount of time there. He played in Dallas as well. But if you ask me, Lindros will always be a Philadelphia Flyer, even though he had a little bit of controversial start to getting to Philadelphia. So that is that. Lindros is going to go and put that 88 jersey up there in the rafters in Philly. The following day, he will reunite with the Legion of Doom line mates, John LeClair and Renberg, and they'll go play an outdoor game over with the Hershey Park Stadium. It's Flyers alum versus the former members of the Hershey Bears American Hockey League team. It's an interesting way of saying that. It's the Flyers alumni playing the former members of the Hershey Bears. I guess the Hershey Bears don't necessarily get an alumni. I guess that's how it works. Speaking on the honor of having your jersey retired, Lindros said, "It is a real honor. It truly is. It's a bit surreal. I don't know if you can really speak to it until you go through it." I think that having your number retired for me is the greatest compliment that you can pay to a player. I think it's just one of those things. Enshrining them in a Hall of Fame, I think, is wonderful. And I think nowadays they tend to go hand in hand. You get into a Hall of Fame, you get into, you get your jersey retired by the team that you play for. Certainly that seems to be the case. But I don't know. I just think that it's the greatest compliment you can pay to somebody. To say nobody will ever wear this sweater number again, I just don't know if it gets any better than that. I really, really don't. To me, that's the greatest compliment that you can pay to a player. That being said, I do kind of love and hate at the same time the teams that do that honor ring thing where they'll put your number up on the rafters, but it's not exactly retired. That's been creeping around a lot more lately in sports. Let's honor them. Let's hang their number from the rafters, but it's okay. People can wear it again. To me, you got to retire a number. You start to run into some trouble. We see that with the New York Yankees, but still, regardless, I think it's a nice thing to have and to have happen for a player. Speaking of jerseys, we're going to get into the Washington Capitals jerseys. They just released what they're going to be wearing for the Stadium Series when they take on the Toronto Maple Leafs in a couple weeks in March. But we do have some news about Jaromir Jagr as well. Let's go over to that. Jagr has been dealing with some nagging injuries, and there's been some interesting commentary now from the Calgary Flames on where Jaromir Jagr sits in this whole thing. Remember, I said that most likely these two entities will part ways. They'll mutually terminate the contract, and Jaromir Jagr will be able to walk away. Maybe a chance that he'll go and he will play in the Olympics. But Brad Treliving said, and he said this to TSN, I'll quote it here, quote, "As far as what the future holds, we're not in a position to talk about that yet," as far as what's going to happen to Jagr. "Other than he's on IR and will continue to work through this, he'll continue to look to try and get healthy as quickly as possible." Jagr, who turns 46 February 15th, has missed 23 games, including the past 6 because of injuries. He has 7 points, 1 goal, 6 assists in 22 games. Treliving said, quote, "We knew coming in, hey, listen, Jaromir is one of the all-time greats in our sport. I think he's even shown flashes since he's been here. If you couple it with the fact that he was unable to participate in training camp, he battled some nagging stuff, and then at the end of the day, that age is the age that he is at. That's difficult to go through those things at 20, never mind 45 and 46 years old." And let's be honest, the Calgary Flames are sitting in a playoff position right now, 3rd in the Pacific. They're just barely ahead of Minnesota, but they're still ahead. So they've been doing just fine without 68. I don't think anybody in the Calgary camp is excited or going to try and be rushing Jaromir Jagr back into the mix. 631-438-1768 if you want to join in on the Hockey Talk Show. Comment in the Facebook and YouTube channels right there. And don't forget to like our page. And visit HockeyTalkShow.com because we've got links for all of our podcasts and the live video feeds and everything else. And, of course, you can get the info on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages. So Kid Rock, we spoke about the Jaromir Jagr situation is what it is. We'll go from there and see what happens. Let's break down the Washington Capitals jersey. I'm excited to do this with you guys. Thanks, Kid Rock. Thanks, Jaromir Jagr. Bam. Take a look at those beauties right there. National Hockey League and the Washington Capitals today announcing the new Caps jersey for the Stadium Series that they're going to be playing in Annapolis against the Maple Leafs. You can't see his head, but Alexander Ovechkin was the model in what will be the new Caps jersey. They maintain their 3 stars like they have on their regular home jerseys that spell out Capitals in full. And as you can see here, the difference is now they're just sporting Caps, their nickname, instead of the full Capitals. League did this a little while ago with the Bolts and the Sens. I never really liked it. And to me, a nickname is a good nickname. It doesn't belong on the jersey. I don't hate it. I'm just not crazy about it. I think it does look pretty okay, though, with the Caps. Again, you got the P sort of in the fashion of a hockey stick blade hanging upside down. So that's kind of cool. The 3 stars. You'll notice the number on the shoulder is big. Numbers on the back will be a little bit bigger. And there's no real piping around the numbers. It's just a big solid white number. White shoulder pads, which are pretty sweet looking. You can get a little bit better view of that one on this other version that we have there. You can see Ovi's face. And if you notice a big stripe on the shoulder, and talk about big stripe. Look at this big stripe around the waist. Wow. That is a big stripe. Big stripe. I kind of like it. It's overly ridiculous, but I kind of like it a lot. I like this look for the Caps. You know, the striping usually on the lower part of the jersey is always usually just a certain size, or there's multiple versions. You know, there's 2 or 3 stripes down there. But to go with one huge red stripe, I think is pretty cool. Now, a couple of the finer tune moments here. Also draw your attention to this. 3 stars down here on the pant leg. And if you notice, the W, as was with the Winter Classic W that they had, is in the fashion of a Washington monument. So I thought that was pretty cool. If you're wondering why they went with this big stripe here and the stripe on the shoulder pads and where the 3 stars even come from, flag of Washington, D.C., kids. There it is right there. 2 red stripes and 3 stars. So you can see, and if you go back, this was George Washington's coat of arms right here. So you can see that was sort of the inspiration for the Washington, D.C. flag, and thus the inspiration for the Washington Capitals Stadium Series jerseys. One more thing that I do want to point out to you, which I thought was really, really cool. Whenever it comes to these things, I like an overwhelming amount of detail that you can't necessarily see. Again, they did all the right things, Adidas. I think they struck again and did a killer job with making these jerseys really, really nice. But I also love the fact that they paid attention to all the right details. Right? Like they got all the right details. They made the numbers bigger, which you want to see. That's always a good thing. But on top of that, they snuck in some little tiny details. And I think that's really, really noteworthy. Let me see here. I want to bring this up so you guys can get a good look at the jersey. Bear with me here, because I thought this was pretty cool, and I thought I had the photo all queued up. Okay, here it is. So if you take a look at the number on the back of the jersey, which I'll get that up for you right here. Here's Alexander Ovechkin's 8. You'll notice this like little tiny piping detail, right? And this is significant, and this is weird. This goes to show you, and I hope my social studies teachers from grammar school are excited and proud. That little piping is the original city plan for Washington, D.C. If you go up and you look at Washington, D.C., this is what it looks like. This is how the city was planned out. Now, I thought that was really, really a nice tip of the cap. The perforated pattern is based on Pierre Enfant's original grid plan for the city of Washington, D.C. That's, to me, that's nice. You know, much like the Predators guitar strings that go across their numbers. You know, there's only been a couple of times that you've gotten some detail in the numbers themselves. But I thought this was a really, really nice move of, bam, this is what Washington, D.C. is all about, city planning. Like Washington is one of those famous cities for city planning. Like, we literally built that city out with a plan in mind. And it was one of the first cities that we did that with. Like, if you look at Manhattan, you know, you look at Lower Manhattan, it's just garbled together. I mean, it's just nothingness. There's just streets going all kinds of ways. Nothing really makes sense. We didn't really get to city planning in Manhattan, you know, until you start to get above like 14th Street. And then they put the grid in. But for DC, this was actually, you know, that was the plan that they had put into place, and learning that as a kid in school, and then you get to see it, bam, on a jersey. I thought that was pretty damn sweet. I thought that was really, really a sweet, sweet touch. So good job all around again by Adidas. I feel like I do nothing on this show but praise Adidas and the Vegas Golden Knights, but it's true. I can't help it. I got to give credit where credit's due. I called them out on the All-Star jerseys. I did not like those, but these are pretty sweet, and I thought they were very deserving of some attention tonight. So there you go. Kid Rock and Caps jerseys on the Hockey Talk Show tonight. Before we let you go, we'll go over some of the trade rumors that we've been hearing. Wednesdays sort of become that time for trade rumors, and I'll move quickly through here. Some of the things we couldn't get through yesterday and some of the things that are popping today. Arthur Staple reporting that John Tavares said that he hasn't made any decisions on his future yet, but indicated his preference to remain an Islander. We touched on this on yesterday's show. A lot of positive things going forward with the organization and the team here. Tavares said, I haven't thought about being anywhere else but with the Islanders. Mark Spector suggests the Islanders could improve their chances of re-signing Tavares by improving their goaltending. Oh, who said that yesterday? He points out a tandem of Thomas Greiss and Yaroslav Halak is borderline bad, which could prove costly to their playoff hopes this season. And we see it with the Islanders falling out of a playoff spot with just one loss. You don't have time to wait for the deadline to go out and acquire that goaltender. Now is the time to pull the trigger. Your ability to sign John Tavares could really depend on what happens over the next couple of days. And this is kryptonite talk to general managers who love to slow play everything. You know, deals sometimes take 2-3 weeks. Sometimes they take 2 months to put together. If I'm Garth Snow, I'm trying to figure out how to get Robin Lehner in an Islander uniform as quick as possible. Now, last show, we had a lot of great comments about this and the Islanders and everything else. And, you know, people threw a lot of names around. Jimmy Howard, Charlie Lindgren from Montreal has been impressive. I don't know if you want to hang your future on Charlie Lindgren right now. It could be a great goaltender. I'd much rather go with somebody more proven. Mark Spector notes Buffalo, Ottawa, Montreal, Arizona, Vancouver, and Edmonton as potential deadline sellers. Florida and Detroit close to joining them. Goaltending is slim pickings. Robin Leonard, Jimmy Howard, Charlie Lindgren, all possibilities. Cam Talbot, nobody thinks that Edmonton is going to let him go. Craig Anderson, do you even want him at this point? The Islanders have plenty of picks and plenty of prospects in the cupboard. I think that Joshua Hosek could find himself on the way out on a trade deadline deal. And I think the Islanders, besides the fact that they do have a lot of injuries, the fact that 66 is not in the lineup and 71 is with Michael Dal Cole, I do believe that the Islanders are going to try and ship him out. Although he did not really look all that good to me. But you look at the Devils game last night and what happened there. And I know Tavares coughed up the puck and that cost them the fourth goal. But to hell with the fourth goal. To me, the second and third goals were soft goals let in by a bad goaltender. Jaro Halak is in a bad way right now. And he was doing great until Doug Waite said, we're going to run with Jaro for a little bit. And it was like he put the kiss of death on him. It was literally like he grabbed, I knew it was you, Jaro. I knew it was you. And laid one on him down in Cuba. Because that was it. That was it, man. Jaro Halak might as well go off and go fishing by himself in a rowboat. Because he's never coming back. Josh, if the Panthers are sellers, maybe Luongo. I don't love it. I don't love it. To me, I'm in love with Robin Leonard. I can't keep my eyes off him. I think Robin Leonard 1, Jimmy Howard 2, and I don't love Howard, to be honest with you. Luongo's definitely a possibility, but can he keep it together? He's older now. He's been hurt a couple of times this season. You don't want to go out and have your big, deadline acquisition come in and be completely flat. That would not be good for anybody. That's a little worrisome to me. It's a little worrisome to me. Speaking of Detroit, Craig Custance reports the Red Wings GM Ken Holland hasn't approached pending UFA defenseman Mike Green about waiving his no-trade clause. See, this is what I'm talking about with general managers. They haven't had this conversation yet. He's been traded in all our eyes 2 months ago. As soon as the Red Wings started sliding, we all knew that Green would go. And they haven't even had the talks yet. General managers slow play everything. It's typically a good strategy. Not for the Islanders here. By the way, not for the Leafs either. Leafs need to go out and get that defenseman right away. The Rangers could use some help. Boy, the Rangers were good against Philly, weren't they? They rose to the occasion. I will give Henrik Lundqvist this credit. Not only does he win games for you and keep you in the mix, but emotionally, the guy is a leader. Like, he can get the team up just based off his play. Let's see here. Custance suggests the Toronto Maple Leafs and Tampa Bay Lightning could benefit from an experienced right-shot defenseman, though the Leafs could prefer one with a more physical edge. He also noted the Caps could also use another defenseman, but doubts they could have interest in bringing Green back. The Wings could set an asking price of a second and a third-round draft pick, while Green carries a $6 million cap hit. The Wings could be willing to retain part of the salary. James Myrtle, in a recent mailbag segment, was asked about the possibility of the Leafs pursuing defensemen such as New Jersey's Damon Severson, noting the decline in Severson's ice time this season and the fact that the Leafs general manager and former Devils GM Lou Lamoriello is a fan. Myrtle thinks it's plausible the blue liner could be available. However, adding Severson and his $4.17 million annual cap hit could be, no team in a playoff race is going to trade a player away. That's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Pass to lead Nash on the breakaway was amazing. Saucer pass right on the tape and stride. Hell yeah, Josh, I'm with you there. Leafs need to deal Polak and Komarov. I could see that. Komarov was playing with an edge for a little while there. I thought him and Matt Martin would be really good, but he seems to be leaning away from that part of his game a little bit. Joe Haggerty wonders if the Bruins might consider plucking veteran defenseman Paul Martin off of waivers. I don't think anybody's going to pick up Paul Martin. My grandmother is faster than him. She's been dead for 15 years. Bruce Garrick reports that the Senators won't lack for suitors near the February 26th deadline. He cites league insiders claiming the San Jose Sharks, Florida Panthers, Winnipeg Jets, Pittsburgh Penguins, New Jersey Devils, Canucks, Oilers, Ducks may be in the market for a forward at the deadline. Senators have indicated defensemen Erik Karlsson and Mark Stone aren't available. He adds most of the inquiries from rival clubs are about forwards Mike Hoffman, Zach Smith, J.G. Pageau, Ryan Dzingel, and Derek Brassard. I like Pageau, too. Pageau had a good playoff. Remember that? Pageau had a good playoff. Garrick suggests keep an eye on the New Jersey Devils as GM ratio could try and add scoring at the deadline. Hoffman could address their needs provided the Devils are on his 10-team list of preferable trade destinations. I continue to talk about this, that you want to be the first domino to fall. If you're the Rangers and you don't get Mike Hoffman or you don't get Evander Kane, he could wind up going to an opponent. And even if you don't go and play the Devils in the playoffs, think about how much the Rangers and the Devils have to play just to get to the playoffs. You know, I mean, it's awful. Ottawa can finally deal Phaneuf for a bag of pucks. Let me ask you this, Eddie, and this is a question for Eddie and the Leafs fans out there that are watching. Would you take Dion Phaneuf back in Toronto? He's the exact type of defenseman you need. Let's be honest. He hasn't been great this year, but he's on a bad team. When the Senators were good last season, Phaneuf was a really big part of that, man. A really big part of that. Eddie wrote a lot of exclamation points with a no in front of it. I wouldn't do it either, but it's an intriguing question, though, isn't it? It is an intriguing question. You need a defenseman. He's available. The cap is going up next year. You could probably fit him in. The problem with that is you'd have to trade Van Riemsdyk. You wouldn't be able to keep him. That's where you want all that extra cap space to go, bringing back JVR. But it is something to think about. He could maybe help. I don't know if the media would let him back in. That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? He would go right back to that, having to answer questions in the media again. Elliot Friedman reports notable defensemen such as Columbus's Jack Johnson. By the way, I've heard this, that Jack Johnson is available. I don't get that. Is he unhappy? I thought I read he maybe even kind of was hinting at a trade, like please trade me. I don't know what's going on there. I mean, we all know how difficult it is to get along with Tortorella, but they're winning over there in Columbus. I know they're on a little bit of a skid right now, but they're still winning. San Jose's Paul Martin and Ottawa's Dion Phaneuf are on the trade market, with Mike Green coming soon. Salaries of Martin and Phaneuf are lower than their average annual values. Phaneuf also carries a 12-team trade list. Martin is smaller, but his agent has permission to ask around. Green is a pending unrestricted free agent. I really think the Sens would do well by getting rid of Phaneuf, but where can you send him? I mean, there's just not a lot of options. There's just not. Who's willing to take that deal? Plus, he's got the no trade. I'm sure you'd love to dump him off in Arizona. I'm sure Arizona would even take him, but I don't know if he'd go. I doubt he'll go. He don't want to go to Vegas. I just don't know if Phaneuf can get moved. Friedman also wonders if New York Rangers blue liner Ryan McDonough might join that list. He speculates the Blue Shirts could listen to offers from McDonough and winger Matt Zuccarello, but only if they're given good reason to pursue a deal for either player. They could be willing to move pending UFAs such as Rick Nash, Michael Grabner, and David Desharnais. People keep speculating on the demise of the New York Rangers, myself included, but the Rangers don't do any of this if they're in the hunt, and they're in the hunt. And I think they're going to be in the hunt at the deadline. Much to their, I think, if I'm the general manager of the Rangers right now, I know I'm not getting past the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Tampa Bay Lightning for the next 3 years. Not with this team. Let's be honest with each other. Not with this team. You know, you look around, Columbus maybe can get past them. The Caps can maybe get past them. You know, like I was saying yesterday, the Islanders not really get past one of those teams, but could make it to the finals if they could. Actually, I want to break that down. Let's break down the standings. Let's get into this a little bit here. I want to break down the standings because, you know, we were talking about this the other day and I was catching a bit of flack for it, which I enjoy. I enjoy the flack. I enjoyed flaxseed too, by the way. Here's the standings as they are right now. So what I'm thinking is where Pittsburgh is, you do not want to be. The kiss of death is going to be that last wild card spot. When I was talking the other day about, you know, the Islanders could make a run if they got in the right position and blah, 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 blah. You know who can really make a run? Boston and Toronto. Because they don't have to face Tampa right away. Whoever comes out of that first round matchup, if it stays where it is, let's pretend the playoffs ended today. And this is our playoff outlook. First of all, Penguins and Tampa. Jesus, that's good. Holy cow, is that good. Because that's what it would be. Tampa has the most points, so they would draw the worst wild card, which right now, for tiebreaker sense, let's just say it's Pittsburgh, right? So that's the tough matchup there. And then it's Boston and Toronto in the middle. So that's, to me, if second and third is the best spot to be in because you don't have to worry about playing Tampa in the first round. Everybody else in that wild card is in a different spot. The Rangers would play the Caps, and the Caps would run right over them. The Devils and Columbus would be interesting, but I think Columbus would run right over the Devils eventually. In a 7-game series, give me Tortorella. Better goaltending, better coaching, more scorers, even though Columbus has been terrible over their last few. Let's not forget the Devils were on a 3-game skid, too. You know, so that to me, you know, in looking at the East, I was thinking about this earlier today, and it holds true. That last spot, suicide spot. The worst spot you could be in. Worst spot. And the theme song for the hockey show sounds like a lot like King Crimson's song 21st Century Schizoid Man. It's actually one of these licensed music songs that you can get. I forgot where we got it from, but thank you for the compliment. If that is indeed a compliment, Eddie. So yeah, that was a thought. You know, you got to really just look out for these standings, because if you're going to draw Pittsburgh, if you're going to draw Tampa in that first round, you're in a lot of trouble. I don't see the Rangers getting rid of McDonough or Matt Zuccarello, even though, again, like I said, you're playing to barely hold on to a playoff spot, and you'll have to get past the Caps, Columbus, and probably Tampa if you want to make a run, if you're the New York Rangers. And that is if you finish in the top wild card spot. If you finish in the last wild card spot, if you're the Rangers, you're going to get pummeled by the Tampa Bay Lightning. But as the thing is in sports, sometimes it's better to just get in that. Just even one playoff series can pay for a lot of things, especially in New York. Columbus Blue Jackets need scoring, and we're looking closely at Montreal Canadiens forward Alex Galchenyuk at times this season. Elliot Friedman isn't sure if the Jackets are still interested. Nick Kyprios noted the Habs remain interested in Jackets center Pierre-Luc Dubois and speculated the youngster might not be untouchable. I don't know if Galchenyuk is the answer to any of your questions. We'll have to wait and see. Everybody now speculating on Robin Leonard to the New York Islanders. Friedman said he was told by a source to stop wondering, leading him to conclude they are not going there. I just don't know. I don't know. I mean, if I'm Buffalo, I wouldn't want to get rid of a young, good goaltender like Robin Leonard. But at the same time, you're going to have to sign him. to me, and this might be sacrilege to the Islander fans, but you know, they have Sorokin, this young Russian goaltender who apparently is lights out in the KHL. Maybe that's the move, because I'd give up Sorokin to get Robin Lehner. And maybe that's the only way that, you know, Buffalo agrees, is if they know they got potentially a really good goaltender coming down the pipe. Also shot down a rumor claiming the Washington Capitals were shopping winger Andrei Burakovsky for a defenseman. There you go. Boston Bruins and Ottawa Senators were rebuffed in their attempts to acquire defenseman Slater Koke from Tampa. Devils have taken a look at New York Islanders forward Brock Nelson, with those rivals fighting for a playoff spot. Friedman doubts that move takes place, obviously. I think Nelson could be trade bait, but I think it's going to be for a defenseman or for a goaltender, not necessarily a winger. Friedman doesn't think the Vancouver Canucks will trade defenseman Chris Tanev. I don't even know how to say his name. He also speculates they could keep UFA Thomas Vanek. I don't know why they would. Get rid of Vanek. Drager reports the Buffalo Sabres asking price for left winger Evander Kane could be rising. It was originally reported the Sabres sought a first-round draft pick, a prospect, and a conditional draft pick, but Sabres general manager Jason Botterill could also want an NHL player included in that package. Botterill can ask for whatever the hell he wants. He has the most prized possession in the trade market right now, a decent scoring winger who doesn't have any time left on his deal. Bob McKenzie reports the Pittsburgh Penguins GM Jim Rutherford, boy, there's a lot of rumors, has spoken with with Botterill regarding Evander Kane, but the winger could prove to be too expensive for Rutherford to acquire. The Penguins need depth at the center position and could look at some such as Edmonton's Mark Letestu, who was a Pittsburgh Penguin. Defenseman Ian Cole, who's fallen out of favor with Mike Sullivan, Penn's coach, could be used as trade bait. LeBron believes Jack Johnson could be in the works for a forward. They don't want a rental deal. They want to get draft picks in return. Chris Nichols cites LeBron's Tuesday evening appearance on TSN 690 discussing the Isles' desire to bolster their top four defense, even when currently sidelined D-men Johnny Boychuk and Calvin DeHaan were healthy. LeBron said the Isles' blue line wasn't good enough. It's interesting. John Neo believes Mike Green should be one sought-after rental player. He believes Ken Holland could explore shopping blue liner Trevor Daley and perhaps wingers Gustav Nyquist and Thomas Tatar. By the way, for my Caps fans out there, Gustav Nyquist would be a hell of an acquisition for the Washington Capitals. That would be a good move for them. Solid 2-3 line guy. You know, he's just one of those guys that I think could be a very, very big helpful fit for the Caps. Saw a trade rumor between the Caps and Ottawa, Burakovsky, Orpik, Johansson, and 2 first-rounders for Carlson and Burrows. Thoughts? Other than having a number 1 D-man in our Carlson and Carlson having a bad year, I'd welcome Carlson. Too many Carlsons. You can't have too many Carlsons. That is a rule. It's illegal to have 2 different Carlsons, even though one's with a K and one's with a C. Can't have that stuff going on. I think that, although I think the smart move for Ottawa would be to dish Carlson right now, I don't necessarily think that he goes to the Washington Capitals. I just don't. Nor do I think they really need him. You know, I don't know if, I mean, everybody could use Carlson. I mean, Jesus, you know, that would be great to have, but that's a lot to give up. And I don't know if 2 first rounders. The problem is, you know, like I said about general managers, they just love to be patient. They just love to be patient. And Ottawa can just sit back and slow play this because, again, they're not in a position where they have to make a move. I think it's going to be fun to throw Carlson's name around a bunch here, but I think that this is an off-season move if I've ever seen one. I did also find this to be interesting. And again, it goes along with what I was talking about having to go out and acquire these pieces now and not necessarily waiting for the deadline. You know, in the case of the Islanders, let's say, they need goaltending help. Well, now I'm hearing that Corey Crawford is going to be out for a while. He's got vertigo, which I sympathize with. I got vertigo. Not a fun thing to go through. Definitely not easy to do if you're a goaltender. But, you know, if you look at it that way, once you have, like, again, there's a small crop of forwards that everybody's going to be fighting over. There's a small crop of defensemen, and there's not a lot in the goalie crop. Once you have more than one team fighting for that goalie, you're in trouble, man. And now you have the Blackhawks who are trying to make a run. If they don't have Corey Crawford, they might be in the market for a goaltender. Obviously, I think that Matt Murray is going to come back, but you never know. Pittsburgh is by the way, if Pittsburgh gets Evander Kane, I'm throwing something. I'm tired of Pittsburgh making the big acquisitions, but they know what to do. I don't know why some of the other managers are so, you know, hesitant to make some big splashy moves at the deadline. Some GMs just don't believe in it. But I think it would be good if they did. Again, the teams that I keep saying, Toronto, the Islanders, the Rangers, you know, these are all teams that need to make some moves to get in there and make it happen. You can add Calgary to that list. Gustav Nyquist would fit in damn well with the Calgary Flames over there. Thomas Tatar would fit in pretty interestingly. You know, get some more scoring help. Tatar would fit in with Columbus. All these teams are going to look to shore up their rosters, and there's not going to be a lot of places that they can go to get it because of the parity in the league today. You know, you can find yourself in a situation where if somebody else goes down and then, you know, now you have 3 or 4 suitors in for some of these players. Like, look at the price tag for Evander Kane. That's why Buffalo is going to wait, because if people get desperate, they're just going to pay more. So if I were some of these teams that are looking to make some acquisitions, I would try pretty damn hard to go ahead and make some of these acquisitions, because the prices are only going to go up the closer you get to the deadline. And that is the more that you're going to have to pay. Tomorrow night, we'll look a little bit more at 88 and his retirement ceremony, and maybe we'll even recap that a bit on Friday's show. Of course, we've got a lot on the trade rumors that are coming. We're going to talk a lot about trades over the next couple of weeks as we get closer to the trade deadline. Last deal we had was 7 days ago since Anthony Duclair was moved. It's a long time to wait. Canadiens and Bruins tonight from Boston, Pittsburgh and Anaheim from California. I don't know. Do we have starting goalies? DailyFaceoff.com, the best source for starting goaltenders. Carey Price tonight for the Canadiens and Tuukka Rask for the Bruins. The Bruins have just been red hot. Give me the Bruins there. No surprises. Tristan Jarry likely for Pittsburgh with Matt Murray being out, and John Gibson for the Anaheim Ducks. Give me Anaheim at home. I think Pittsburgh's won 4 in a row, actually. But give me the Ducks at home. I like them better at home. I like them a lot better. Evander Kane could be this year's Butch Goring. That would be something, wouldn't it? Eddie V's picks. Anaheim 6, Pittsburgh 4. High scoring game, huh? I like that one. Give me Boston and Montreal. That's going to be a goalie duel. Tuukka and Carey Price. Let me give you a score. I'm going to give you my score. I'm going to go 3-2. Give me 3-2 Boston over Montreal tonight. Those are my picks. Big slate of games tomorrow night. Boston 4, Montreal 3. So there you go. We're not far off. We're down to a goal apiece. The Islanders were complaining a lot about the schedule and the fact that they had to play back-to-back and coming back from Montreal. Well, guess what? Now the Bruins are playing Montreal tonight at home, and they'll be at the Barclays Center tomorrow night taking on the Islanders. So, when one day you're down, the next day you're up, and you get a little bit of an advantage. By the way, Isles need to beat the Boston Bruins because they need to prove to themselves that they can make a run here, and you've got to beat the better teams. They should have, by all accounts, beat the Devils. I'm sick and tired, by the way, of hearing, oh, they were tired, 3-4. I said that too. I wasn't making an excuse for them, but you watched that Islander broadcast last night, and some of the guys, what they're saying, like, oh, we're tired. Listen to me. I get it. If you're in the middle of a grind, and you're in the middle of a tough part of the season, and you're doing 3-4, and you're landing at 4 o'clock in the morning and getting some sleep, but give me a break. The Islanders had no morning skate yesterday, and they just came off a 5-game break. Sure, 3-4 is never easy, but you just came off a 5-day break. You don't have the endurance to soldier on. Anybody who tells you this was a 3 games and 4 nights scenario has no idea what they're talking about. The Islanders lost that game when Yaroslav Halak let in some soft goals. Period. End of sentence. That's why the Islanders have to go out and acquire a goaltender right now. And you know what? If Robin Leonard's not available, then go get Jimmy Howard. Go make that move right now. You've got to. You can't sit there and go, well, maybe Robin Leonard will be available in a couple of weeks. What's going to change for Buffalo? Either they're trading the guy or they're not. They're not going to crawl into a playoff position. None of that's going to happen. You can either get him for what you have or you can't. And if you can't, then move on to Jimmy Howard. He's the next best available guy. And is he an upgrade from Yaro Halak? Yeah, I think so. I think he's slightly better. And this year, definitely better. Everybody's better than Yaro Halak this year, including my grandmother. She's been dead for 16 years. She gained a year in just 45 minutes. Anybody else notice that? All right, good night at Talking Hockey with you. Sorry for the technical difficulties up front. Remember to like this post and share it around. We had some great shares yesterday. Huge numbers on yesterday's show. A lot of Islander fans out there. Appreciate that as always. Like I said, Lindros talk tomorrow. We'll follow up on some of these trade rumors. I think they're going to be coming fast and furious now on who's going where and when that'll go down. I think we'll see a trade before the All-Star game. We typically do. I think that will happen. Who will be the first domino to fall? We will wait and see. And a big night of hockey tomorrow night. Isles and Boston, Columbus and Dallas, Philly and Toronto, Devils and Caps, Rangers and Buffalo, Ottawa and St. Louis. I think all the teams that are not on a bye week are playing tomorrow night. Vegas and Tampa. That's going to be another good one to watch. Arizona and Nashville, Colorado and San Jose. By the way, we haven't talked about San Jose too much, and I want to get into San Jose because they're another team out in the West that is going to need some help moving forward at the deadline. If they're going to find themselves in a playoff position, if they're going to stay in that second spot, they have got to make some moves. They have got to shore up that team a little bit. Some scoring, I think, can't hurt. And I'd like to see some bottom 6 scoring for San Jose. I know that's few and far between, but if Andrew Shaw really is available, I'd like to see him in a Sharks jersey. More on that on the next show. Eddie, thanks for the comments. Josh, Chicago, everybody else, awesome as always. On Facebook, you guys are killer tonight despite some of the earlier issues. Thanks so much, Evander, for chiming in. We'll get more into the Caps as we move forward. If you guys missed the beginning of the episode, we did a lot on the Caps' new Stadium Series jerseys, which should be pretty sweet. We'll keep our eye out for the Toronto Maple Leafs. They'll announce theirs any day now. Enjoy the hockey tonight.